Welcome to the New Era podcast with me, Jeffrey Peel. In this episode, I'm joined by Abi Roberts, who has recently published a new book called Hot Banana, and she explains in the interview why she called it that. We're also touching on my book, my new novel, South of Market, which was published a few weeks ago. So I hope you enjoy. So Abi, we were just chatting there before I hit the record button about the fact that both of us have been locked away, beavering away, writing our little books. What was the experience like for you? You know, did you sort of decide to sort of not get involved in anything, pretty much apart from
yes.
the book writing?
It all started, Jeff. First of all, lovely to see you. It's been too long. Yeah, great to see you. I started. Well, it's weird because I didn't think of writing a book. I started writing on Substack, which we're both on, and I started writing just about a part of my life, which is kind of is in my book Hot Banana, which we'll get to that how the title came about. But I started writing.
Here it is.
There
folks,
it is.
There it
Hot
is.
Banana.
And it's available on Lulu.com.
Lulu, and you can get it on Amazon. Not the book version, but you can get like what do you call it, the virtual. The thing
Kindle?
On Kindle, yeah, Kindle and Apple Books as well. So basically started writing about sections of my life, on Substack, and everyone went, "Oh, it's really interesting. God, we want to hear some more." So I thought, "Oh no, here we go." And then as I wrote them, I realised as I was the process that I was gradually forming a book. And then in my crazy Abi way said on one of my podcasts, I'm going to write a book and put all these things. And then, of course, immediately thought, shit, I haven't ever written a book before. I mean, I've got We the People, obviously, but that's a collection of letters. It's slightly different, even though it is obviously in the shape of a book. But it was that thing of, and then then as I gradually, the snowball starts going, where you're thinking, okay, I've got 4 in my book in Hot Banana. I call the chapters tracks. Because I love music. My dad was a musician. I was a singer. I was a songwriter. Which is all kind of in the book. And I decided, right, it's going to be 12 essays, highlights of my life, and then it won't be. In fact, I think someone said to me, "You've created a new genre." Abs. God, only I could do that, because I've called it a compilation of memoirs and essays. Compilation because it's the music theme, and then. But it's sort of, I didn't want it to be, and in 1970, this happened, and then, and then, you know what I mean? Where people just go, oh, okay, yeah, okay, we get it. And then like 9 million pages later. So it was very much, I had the idea of it's like a CD of my life. So even the back of the book is like a CD with the names of
With the track titles?
With the names of the track titles. I mean, some of which, I've got to be honest though, Jeff, it was quite organic, the process. I didn't, the whole evolving of the 12 tracks, I suppose it could be obviously because 12 is, it's a magic number. Disciples, I mentioned that in the intro. Disciples, a clock face, all those kind of things. So it's quite interesting that and also to like Jordan Peterson, don't they go for the 12, the rules for life or whatever. But some of the titles are Freedom of Bleach, Sweet Home Alabama, Nice Baubles, Whatever Love Means, Sex and the Witty, The Prizes Heaven Takes, Dolphins, and Death Shall Have No Dominion, Faith Runners, Вечная память, which is eternal memory in Russian, The Shit Show, and Are You Fucking Joking is the last one. So it was kind of like, as I was going, I didn't really have a plan. I didn't really go, right, I'm sitting down. And I tell you what's interesting, though, is realizing what's your methodology. And my mum was a writer, my dear late mum.
Uh-huh. What did she? What type of writing?
She wrote actually non-fiction. So it was things like Gorbachev's. Oh dear, my light's just given up. Oh, I just recommended that light to you, Jeff, and now I will no longer be recommending.
It's back on again. That's the important thing.
I'm literally like, oh, thanks, you cheap piece of Chinese shit. And I, so my mum wrote like about Gorbachev, about about Russia. Gorbachev, Perestroika and Glasnost. So she was a Russian speaker. She wrote a self-help book as well. So very much, she translated a book by, helped translate a book by Father Alexander Men, who baptized me. He's in the book, Russian priest.
Who's in the book, yeah.
Who was murdered
in
1990. And they never found his killer. So she's, you know what I mean? So that was her thing. But she had been a journalist. That's how she met my dad on the South Wales Echo. So, but my mum was a great writer. In fact, I wish that in some ways she'd written more, because she was, and actually I've got a lot. Was
she great in the respect that she was very disciplined about the writing process, or was her writing sparkling, you know, or both?
Yeah, that's a good question. Very good with discipline, because she'd been a journalist, so she was able to sit down and say, right, I'm writing this, and so she had a good idea with structure. You know, she always used to say to me, because sometimes, you know, I'd be writing stuff and she'd go, Abs, my advice to you is just keep writing. Don't worry about, maybe this thing should be, I mean, in my book, there's no indentation, by the way, if people notice. I decided to do that because I don't really like indentation. I mean, it didn't sort of suit the character of the book, which is a bit weird, Jeff, because it's not actually standard practice not to have, you know, paragraph, indents. But my mom just said, just keep writing, and you'll find your style, and you don't even necessarily think about it. Just get the words down, and then so very much I could sort of hear her voice going, just keep going with it. Don't, you know, go back over that, but don't worry about it now. Just keep churning it out, and then chisel away at it, but not too much, not so that then you go, oh no, now I've lost the, you know. So it's very solitary, Jeff. Which is sort of odd for me, because people know me, you know, as being quite a outspoken, a public figure, whatever, you know, done my broadcasting stuff, stand up and whatever. But actually, you know, I really, really enjoyed it. I don't know about what are your thoughts on being just kind of on your own with your own thoughts?
Absolutely. I found it the same. You know, I had to kind of take myself away.
When did you write when did you start yours? South of the Market, which, by the way, South of the Market, Soma.
Yeah, I'm sorry you got
we'll get to Aldous Huxley in a minute.
I'm sorry you got a crappy version with the sort of big band across the front.
Oh, that was my little preview version, which I was delighted to get, and then I left, and then literally went, shit, I've got to read Jeff's book. It's a real page turner. But tell me, when did you start writing it? The process.
It took me about 6 months. I think I finished around about June. So I wrote it in spring and early summer. Last winter, spring, early summer. And I went away. I went to Greece, and there are references to Greece in the book.
I've already been looking and thinking, oh, that looks lovely for me.
You should visit. So I refer to 3 islands that are quite close to the Peloponnese, Hydra, Poros, and Spetses.
Spetsi,
there's some scenes in there in Greece. So I actually went to Greece and thought, well, since I'm here writing it, I really should put some references to Greece in the book as well.
Yeah.
It was, I agree with you. It was part of the discipline as well. So I would get up really early in the morning and write 1,000 words. You know, my daily target was 1,000 words.
Right.
The book ended up being about 80,000 words. And I sort of had to end it because I could have gone on forever. Because I got into the discipline, I just kept writing.
Yes.
And I thought, no, I'm going to have to end it. So I recently spoke at an event in Edinburgh, and somebody came up to me and said he was really disappointed. I can't give away the ending, obviously, but he said he was disappointed with the ending because he says, I wanted to know more, but similarly, I wanted to write more. So I thought I'd set it up for a sequel, you know, so if enough people buy it, I might write a sequel. Or even a trilogy, you know.
Trilogy. Well, I'm not sure if I've got a Hot Banana 2 in me. It's one of those weird things where you, I really, really enjoyed reading it. And you know something? I'm not a fast reader. So I sort of took my time, and then I finished it kind of middle of yesterday. So I'm reading through it, but it's just got so many themes which are just fascinating to me. The Bitcoin stuff was like, yeah, which I totally get. I totally agree with, whether that's your view or just the whether that's your view or not. I don't know, because when I was reading it, I was thinking, who's Jeff? Is he Anna? Is he Mark? Is he
because I read
Raoul?
the book to my wife. We went away on holiday to Italy, and we were there for about a week. And when we got into bed every evening in the hotel, I would read her. So it took me a week to read it, and she took notes as well. That was my copy edit,
Right.
So she took note when I was reading a bit, and there was a misspelling or whatever.
Yes.
She would take notes, and then I copy edited based on that. But I've forgotten now what I was saying. But
About the about the who was who
yes, who the characters
who's the
were.
voice, who's your voice.
Yeah.
You don't even have to really say. It could be a composite of people.
It was, I think, Mark Carlyle. Obviously, I think James Delingpole wrote recently that anybody's first novel is going to be a wee bit autobiographical. There are anecdotes in it that are based on fact. The reference to the meeting in the embassy in Helsinki is based on my
embarrassing.
Yeah, that was for me the moment that I thought this is a constructed moment of craziness.
Yes.
Somebody is pulling strings here, because I was working for the Department of International Trade, and I was sent off to do a talk to a bunch of technology companies in Helsinki, and that the experience as described in the book, which is obviously attributed to Mark Carlyle in slightly different circumstances,
Yes.
Is that experience. So it's exactly as described in the book.
Yes.
Couldn't believe what was happening to me at the time. It was like I just entered the zone of crazy, and everybody in the establishment, the British establishment, the heart of government was in on it. And I knew that was the case when I had that experience in Helsinki.
Yes.
I'll leave people to read the experience in the book. But so there's a part of me, obviously, in Mark Carlyle. I've worked in comms. So part of me, I suppose, in the Anna character and the Jenny character are kind of both in comms. But I wanted to create those two characters because, clearly public relations is propaganda redefined, if you like.
Yes.
So I wanted people to come from both sides, the journalistic side and the propaganda side, to populate the characters in the book. But it just unfolded, and the characters took their own trajectories, if you like. I had no control. But there is a discussion in the book as well as to whether, and I'll refer back to you in your book, because it's clear that your life experiences, sometimes I'm sure you must have stopped and thought, and this particularly relates, I think, to your experience in Russia when you were a student, when you must have thought, am I on rails? Is this sort of almost predefined? The people that populate our lives, sometimes we have no idea how we ended up meeting them or marrying them or building friendships with them.
Yes.
And did you ever have that feeling that perhaps everything is
sort of predetermined?
Like it's mapped?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, I'm a Christian. I haven't just chosen to be a Christian in the last, unlike some people, in the last 2 years. How suddenly everyone's like, "Hi, I'm a Christian," even though like Russell Brand, I'm a Christian, and like I baptize people in rivers wearing underpants, and you just think, anyway, that's really strange. It's coincidental that you just seem to have become a Christian whilst the spotlight was on all your behaviour from years ago. So I mean, call me cynical. Which actually I should be, I should be maybe a little bit less, a bit more forgiving, having said I'm a Christian. But it's the idea that you're sort of predetermined, that your life is sort of in some way already mapped out, and that you've got to. But I'm very much somebody, and in the book in Hot Banana, I do reference signs. So when Terry died, my late husband, there's it's weird because this. Someone said to me the other day, it's like it is a roller coaster, because 1 minute you're like, hey, I'm showbiz, I'm in LA doing some coke in a bathroom. And then like a few chapters later, I'm talking about the death of my husband and and his treatment at the Royal Marsden. So it's like a real kind of, oh my God, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of like yeah, that is a good question. I weirdly though, looking back, like meeting Father Alexander, I don't think that was, I'd like to say, sort of no accident, because I'd been an atheist for 20 years. And I think until I went to Moscow in 1990 to study to be a singer, opera at the Conservatoire. So I was sort of, but it was weird because I saw him and I just immediately thought, I really like this guy and I really want to be part of what he's part of. But he was quite, you know, controversial in the Orthodox Church, you know, Father Alexander. He wasn't, funny enough, he was a rule breaker. Actually, he was ecumenical, so he didn't. There were some things he wanted all faith, all Christianity, to kind of the various factions to all be really, you know, aligned. That was his thing, and that may even be why he was murdered.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that, you know, James Delingpole obviously had his recent trip
to Russia. Yes,
Russia.
I've been testing on his Russian when I see him one day.
But he talked and he interviewed certain people as well who discussed the whole schism between the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
and I suppose if you're a strict Orthodox, sort of breaching that schism, if you like, or holding the hand of friendship out to people who have slightly counter liturgical views, is akin to, walking away from the truth, if you like.
Yes.
Was that part of why you think he may well? You hint at the fact that there may well have been a conspiracy behind.
It's really interesting because it could have been the KGB as it was back then. It could have been, apparently, I think he had to take off his glasses to read something. So because they found his smashed glasses on the path. I'd forgotten this bit. So when I'm recounting it, they found his glasses smashed on the path. So they deduced that somebody had gone, "Excuse me, Father," and then because he was on his way to do the liturgy, so he put his glasses on, and then that's when the sapper's spade. They think that a military spade hit him on the back of the head. Oh, he was also another theory is that he was born a Jew. So born to, as was very traditional back then with the catacombs, his mother converted to Christianity, and then so did he. So there's another theory. There's a few theories that were lurking, you know, which was I think there was an organization called Pamyat, which is an organization. I can't remember which side it's on, but it's basically, it could have been something to do with the fact that he was born a Jew and then he converted, and somebody was angry about it. You know, I don't, but I mean, a great man was lost, honestly. The amount of people that have said to me, "Thank you for introducing me to him." His writing, he used to talk about Iris Murdoch and Graham Greene in his massive lectures, you know, in the Library for Foreign Literature, and was kind. He didn't blink once when I said I'd want to be baptized, and I went to see him in his little study, and yeah, he was a great man. He was a man for all seasons. He was a Renaissance man. You know, he understood, and his relationship was with Christ, not the buildings, the church buildings, the you know, all the frippery, you know, the stuff that goes along with it. So I think, I think there was a reason that I met him, and it's one of the things that I think has kept me going through the last 5 years.
Do you think, having written the book, that given the discussion we just had about, the fact that we may be on, or we get the feeling sometimes that we're on rails, and maybe it's a delusion, maybe it's because we kind of post-rationalize, with the
yes, exactly, thinking, was I meant to meet someone? Yeah, sure, it's true.
But do you think that now that you've written a book, and to some extent it's the first proper book you write, I'm advised. that can be the launch pad for future writing and
Yes,
the development of future ideas as well. Do you think
yes,
you're going
yeah,
to write more and
yeah.
take it in different directions and possibly look at fiction? Because you obviously sex, drugs, and rock and roll are well articulated in this. I'm a bit jealous, I have
Yeah,
to
I'm
say.
quite, it's not graphic, is it? But it's quite frank.
It is frank. Yeah.
It's frank. In fact, Frank was the name of one of the, anyway, he wasn't mentioned
But do you,
in
do
the
you think
book.
that you're going to write more? And if so, what are you going to write about?
That is I was just thinking that actually earlier on, because some of the book is, even though it's a sort of autobiographical or memoirs, there's a lot of philosophy in this book. There's a lot of, as you know, there's lots of quotes, favorite quotes from, actually, I've got Sex and the City. Samantha from Sex and the City is one of the quotes, but I've got Solzhenitsyn, I've got various, just ideas floating around, a lot of more stuff about the morals of the vaccine, Operation Warp Speed. I have a good go at Trump. Probably why some people haven't got back to me about the book, because I've really going hard on on Trump and his people forgiving him for like, hey, he's a really great guy. No, he's destroying America. But and this is from me, from a libertarian, small c conservative saying this. You know what I mean? I'm not like some. Although we've said, haven't we, that the left and right have kind of don't exist anymore. There's just this
No, no.
weird.
I just get so annoyed at all of the nonsense about, what Kemi Badenoch said in Prime Minister's
Yeah,
questions, and the fact that Rachel Reeves is the worst chancellor in living history. It's all
it's
nonsense.
all
It's
complete
all
nonsense.
posturing nonsense.
Yeah, and then they go, let's have a petition to stop David Lammy with the getting rid of juries. I'm like, are you joking? Nobody wrote to Stalin. Actually, we're coming back around to when you said what you're going to write about, because it's like saying, dear Stalin. I had this thing today on Twitter, on my old Twitter account. Dear Stalin, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that I'm very disappointed with your purges. Can I pop around and have a cup of tea? And then in which case Beria would have been round, with a bullet in the back of your head. So all this ridiculous kind of, where you can't negotiate with authoritarians. I don't know why people can't get that into their heads that
And
we're
you can't assume that liars will ever tell the truth.
well, exactly. And it's like we crossed the Rubicon some time ago, and I don't understand why certain quite smart people don't really understand where we are kind of historically. I mean, this is, again, the thing I've been thinking about writing next is, well, my favorite topic, Russian history. Russian, because I went to Zamyatin. In fact, it links very much with your book, because you mention Aldous Huxley in it. And Huxley was influenced by a Russian writer called Zamyatin, who wrote me in Russian. And so he wrote it in 1920. So this was after the revolution, the bloody, awful massacre, horrible revolution where everyone was suspicious of everyone else. The Bolsheviks. They're kind of a bit like the Truther movement, where you go, hang on a minute, I thought you said that, right? Get out. Although in their case, in the Bolsheviks' case, it would have been much more violent than that. But Zamyatin was a Bolshevik. Get this is weird. So so he was fully on board with Bolshevism. Then in 1920, then he suddenly thought, hang on a minute, these people are really terrible, because they're kind of you have to take a purity test, and if you don't believe that so and so who's got, I don't know, maybe a bit more money than the other person, then they've got to be executed. Do you know what I mean? So Zamyatin started to think, hang on a second, I've joined the wrong team here. And he was part of a writers' circle in Moscow, and the writers themselves started to ostracize him, because he was saying, hang on a second, kind of, wait, guys, this Bolshevik thing, this this kind of totalitarian, which he kind of saw, I think, going towards Stalin. I think he had this inkling something was wrong. Anyway, cut long story short, he wrote and was again ostracized for writing it, which is the dystopian, probably the greatest dystopian novel. People literally live in glass houses, so that the state can spy on them. He wanted to leave. He hated Russia so much under Stalin. He asked to leave. Stalin gave him permission. He then left and died a pauper in Paris. And in August, I went to see his grave in Paris, and it was one of the most moving things ever, because I was looking, thinking, where's the tomb of the grave of this great writer? When literally a lovely French guy on his bicycle said, "Oh, it's up here. Let's I'll find it for you." And it was it was virtually unmarked, and just had his little face, Zamyatin.
Wow.
I think it had been apparently defaced by some Ukrainian, or they think maybe Ukrainians, I don't know. But it was, I touched the stone and I spoke to him and I said, thank you so much for what you've done. You're a true hero in the real sense of the word, a dissident who became the people you trust, you wanted to be, freedom to write and express. They became your enemy. So you were not only thinking, hang on a minute, Stalin's my enemy, you were then looking around thinking, these people are my enemy. So I think that I'm going to write about Zamyatin and broaden it out to what it means to be a dissident, what it means to be the bravery of being a dissident writer, and have my own story maybe.
Yeah, it sounds like a really interesting theme, and as well, that you have Brave New World in 1984 and Ayn Rand's Anthem.
Yeah,
are probably originated from that source, indeed, because that description of dystopia where you are not quite sure where the narrator or the writer stands vis-a-vis the Brave New World. Did they want a Brave New World, or did they want to live in the feudalist past?
Yes, I have to say I want to defend Huxley here, which I know is maybe not popular in certain circles.
I'm kind of ambivalent on. I'm not quite sure what and I probably haven't read enough to know on what side he stood.
He was he parodied, basically. He didn't. H.G. Wells was a socialist. The guy that I think really did want people to be a sort of socialist utopia. Which so it's weird. But Huxley wrote, as I understand it, Brave New World, to kind of take the piss, and then realised he was really enjoying the ideas that he was exploring. Because I think writers, this is the thing, we have to understand. Like in your book, Southern Market, you explore Soma. The idea of is Twitter. It's weird that Twitter's in that part of San Francisco, next to an old bookstore, the Binding Books. People could say, well, hang on a minute, what's Jeff saying here about Bitcoin? Is he sort of conditioning people to think that? And actually the answer is no writing is wrong. Absolutely, I am a free speech absolutist. You write what you feel, if your character wants to go in a certain direction or whatever. But I just wanted to read Huxley. This is Huxley's character John in The Savage in Brave New World. But this I think is Huxley himself. Is this rings true to me. I don't want comfort. I want God. I want poetry. I want real danger. I want freedom. I want goodness. I want sin. And I've seen some people say, well, is that Huxley basically saying, yeah, everyone, let's go and sin, and kind of actually deep down, he really was kind of into that stuff. And actually the answer is no. The whole point of that quote is, like you say in your book, is like, I want to live. I want freedom to choose. My relationship with God or non-existent, whatever you believe, is my business. And then it's up to me, when I face the final, the judgment or whatever you believe. But I think that's very much, I'm very much for all writing, no matter who, and I think sometimes we forget about Zamyatin, we forget about the precursors to Huxley and Orwell, Yeah. And remember when they were writing this, in 1931, when Huxley wrote Brave New World, it was just after the First World War, when he'd seen all his men of his younger age totally decimated in the meat grinder.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there would have been a real kind of, and also the Wall Street crash.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, the 2008. So there's a real. I think there's a real. We need to be careful. I think sometimes. I mean, we've both written books, Hot Banana and Southern Market, kind of at a time of great churn. But I don't think that the good news is, I think there is a way through this, because we just have to look back at brilliant people, whether it's in Czechoslovakia, or the Soviets, or whether it's in China, or, where people create stuff that cuts through the bullshit, that says these are words and these are important and you need to read them. Yeah.
And I suppose I was, and it's clear in the book as well, I was very influenced when I read it many years ago. Atlas Shrugged and
yes.
Reading Ayn Rand's work.
How did you find? What are your thoughts on her now? Well,
on the one hand, she is obviously she never claimed to be a libertarian. As such, she simply believed that capitalism always produced positive outcomes. But of course, what we've seen is capitalism producing oligarchs. We are no less under the control of oligarchs in the West as Russia is,
Yes,
or even Southeast Asia. A lot of the companies down there have market dominance, but obviously with market dominance, and then those oligarchs getting aligned with the governments of the day, they produce terrible outcomes. So capitalism clearly isn't delivering. If we define capitalism in that particular way, that untrammeled growth and monopolistic positions and exploitation are the outcomes of capitalism, I don't think they should be. I think capitalism, or the oligarchs very quickly realized. I've done a lot of content recently on the New Era. I've interviewed people specifically about some of the tech bros, and the working title, by the way, for the book was Tech Bros.
Yes,
because they clearly are carving up the world, and we have replaced Biden's globalism with corporatism and technocracy. So I think Ayn Rand was naive to a degree in that she didn't fully realize how evil it could become.
Yes.
I'm not suggesting that I'm in any way socialist, but I do kind of embrace the whole idea of Schumacher and small is beautiful, and that.
Yes.
And one of the consequences, of course, of COVID was that so many small companies were destroyed, and that true capitalism and entrepreneurship were just walked over.
Yes.
And that was my experience working in DIT. So I was working as a consultant, admittedly, but trying to help relatively small companies to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, and then they were just literally annihilated by lockdown. All of the associated nonsense after that.
Yes,
and of course we saw a massive transfer of wealth from the general public, really, to the oligarchs.
To the oligarchs via the PPE nonsense and the test and the muzzles.
Yeah, but also the control of money. And there's another theme in the book, obviously, in relation to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin.
I found that really fascinating, that whole bit.
It was held out as, and coincident with me writing the book, I read Roger Ver's book on how Bitcoin was essentially hijacked by the CIA. There has been a discussion over the years as to whether the CIA actually initiated the Bitcoin project.
Yes, right, because it came out of nowhere pretty much, didn't it, with this Satoshi Nakamoto, like this sort of figure, like this kind of like mythical figure. You think, well, it's like, who is John Gould, isn't it?
But it was a very, very handy way of extracting dollars and money from the general public.
Right. Yeah. Sure. I totally hear you.
Putting that into a store of value, and of course, and giving them adequate time, because they will have modeled this, the oligarchs.
Yes.
Giving them adequate time to get out of it, and then leaving the general public who have bought maybe ETFs, investments in these.
And not really understanding kind of what they are, what they represent.
And believing, like people always believe, that the market will only ever go up.
Yes.
It's absurd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite naive to this sort of stuff, but my gut instinct, which I kind of trust, is that the Bitcoin, the whole, is a digital coin, and that's the thing that we should be. I thought that's the thing that we should sort of be kind of guarding against. And also the stuff I never understood. If there's no energy, if electricity goes, or energy goes, how do you get that? How do you get the money out, Jeff? How do you get the coins out? You know what I mean? Or how do you even make a transaction? Say everything goes down. Who's in charge of the?
Yeah, exactly.
The state will be.
It's
that's what I think.
As well. In that, Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy essentially owns the Bitcoin core network.
Yeah.
Charge whatever they want for these transactions. But the interesting thing now is just today.
Oh, I know. I saw your tweet before I came on. Yes.
Honestly, Abby, I've never been more confident that the entire narrative is cracking.
Yes.
You and I and others have been banging on about this for the last 5 years, but it is cracking because they cannot contain it. They can't contain the might of ordinary individual people saying, hang on a minute, this is a crock of shit. This is all a crock of shit. You're offering us stuff that has no value. Electric cars, Bitcoin, all of this stuff is utter nonsense.
Yes.
And I think people are generally seeing through it, and generally seeing through the fact that governments are just simply propagandists. And I genuinely believe that the writing is on the wall for them. There is no way that and again, there's a theme in South of Market relating to debt. If we get in debt, we become slaves. We become slaves to financial services companies and ultimately the governments if they start controlling the monetary system.
Yes.
It's, I think we have reached the tipping point. I genuinely, and I couldn't go on doing how much content have we collectively spewed out?
Exactly.
The wonderful thing
Jeff,
is,
I was thinking about that last night, tossing and turning, thinking, because, got the digital ID thing, protest, coming up on the 13th, and then there's Fiona Rose Diamond. There's been great stuff being done by.
I'm interviewing her this afternoon.
Are you? She's great. She's a great woman. I mean, God, the stuff that she's done, Jesus, early on and like lost money and then, had terrible, just like people were destroyed by this shit that has been, like manure. That scene in Back to the Future where, what's his name, Biff goes into the car and then the manure just like falls into the, into his car. That's what I think people underestimate, that even people like us who've kind of gone, well, yeah, we kind of see what's going on. We see what's happening. Okay, this is interesting. It still affects us mentally because you cannot not be affected by. Like I was written in your book, Alice. That made me very sad. Alice Carlisle, having the vaccine and obviously and getting blood clots, kind of made me go, oh, that's because something, Jeff. People have come up to me. And again, in Hot Banana, I do talk a lot about the shit show. I talk about, it winds its way through my life, into my life. But then there's a real chunk of about the shit show, which is probably the longest. I call it the mega mix because it's a bloody long chapter. But people have come up to me after gigs or, and one guy said to me, he said, oh yeah, my wife, didn't listen to me and had the vaccines, and we don't really communicate anymore. But we can't afford to separate. We can't afford to get divorced. So they've got to live in a house where, God love her, I have no animosity at all to anyone who had it and then because it's like, well, there, but for the grace of God go I, that I didn't, So it broke my heart when this guy, because he was basically sort of confessing to me and going, I'm living in hell because I'm living with someone who's my wife and I love her, but there's no, it's gone. There's literally a barrier.
Yeah, but it's like
it's heartbreaking.
When I think the last chat we had, it was after or maybe it was when you were at TNT. We had about the Toby Young event that I attended, and the fact that as far as I was concerned, I just found the event horrifying, because it's like people saying, "What's the cost of Brexit?" How on earth, after what we have been through,
and why are you asking that question? Brexit? Who gives a shit? Literally, who gives a shit? We're still in fucking under the European, kibosh anyway. It doesn't make any difference. But, Lord Young, Jeff, what are your thoughts on that? What a surprise that Toby Young should be made a lord. Is it Lord of Acton or something?
Yeah. Yes.
It's baffling, Jeff. And I genuinely, I know that smart people, these people aren't stupid. So it's got to be that they're determined not to venture into those areas, which actually makes them in a way worse than the people, the real bastards, the Albert Bourlas, the CEO of Pfizer and all these cunts. It makes them worse, because for me, it's like, but you're smart. You can, you've got access to people that are, telling you these things. And it's like, why? You're kind of, you're a traitor, actually. Yeah. I think, I don't use that word lightly.
Yeah. And can I ask about you and James Delingpole? Because, obviously James kind of falls into that group, if you like, of dissidents that is of the view that an awful lot of what is constituted as news is in fact just made up propaganda. Yes. But I did detect maybe a couple of months back that you maybe had that there was a degree of friction, if I can put it like
friction, and not in a good way. Not in a good way. James and I. Well, he'll always be part of my journey without wanting to sound wanky about it. In fact, I think he's got the book. I sent out a load. So I think he's probably, I think he's got Hot Banana, and I look forward to hearing his thoughts on it. But I think, James, I admire him very much. I mean, Terry, my late husband, had Watermelons, his book, on his bedside table. So I mean, he loved it. The book that James wrote about the climate nonsense, the climate propaganda, the green movement being red on the inside, green on the outside, so socialist on the inside. And I've written for, obviously I've got an article in one of his brochures, in his show brochure, which is lovely. When he asked me to go, would you write something? And I wrote it. And that's where Baubles, that's where the kind of, because I wrote about Bauble chasing.
Yeah, which I unashamedly stole as well from you.
Is how dare he? Oh, no, I don't. I mean, it's one of those things where you just go, well, it's lovely if people are, I love it that people use Baubles.
I think actually I used it in the book somewhere.
Yeah, I think you may have done like a little Bauble popped up. But no, I love it. I'm like, well, fantastic if the words, it's like it's a word that can be associated with this time. I think the friction definitely came after my very last pod with him. I felt like I was, well, it's funny, we're back to Zamyatin and his and the Bolsheviks, that he felt that he was that he had to have there was a checklist of things that you have to agree on, definitively or know about. So that's when, about Manchester Arena. So we did this thing, and I was actually talking about We the People. So I was talking about We the People, and then literally within about half an hour, I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't really know this was coming," which is fine. It's like, I'm big enough and old enough and ugly enough to take care of myself. But it was. I think I feel sometimes with James that he. There's a lot of shit that we've got to get right, and I think sometimes I feel a little bit like I don't know if I'm being clear about this, but I feel sometimes a little bit like the Truth movement, or whatever whatever he considers himself as, has strayed from the real fight, which is, I think, a moral one.
Yeah.
So I felt a little bit, with the checklist of like, what do you think of this? Oklahoma, moon landings, 9/11. It's like, hang on a minute, this sounds like a struggle session. So if I say things like, I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure that's a false flag. I'm 99.9% sure, but I'm not going to go, yeah, absolutely, yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's you know.
Because I thought that too. I think it really came to a head around the Charlie Kirk.
Oh yeah, Charlie. Yes.
Assassination or non.
Yes.
Clearly, there's a number of different narratives because
yeah,
it's highly unlikely it was a lone gunman who took out Charlie Kirk.
Well, it was an execution. So into the neck.
I think so. I think it was an execution. But of course, I got into a little spat with Mary AF.
We had as you know, things got nasty as they do on social media, on Twitter. You know, I wish Mary, honestly, I hope she watches this, wish her all the very best and her husband. And just to say that social media turns people, put it this way, you know, if you're face to face with somebody and you're in a pub and in a room, you're not going to be doing the same stuff, are you, as you do you're not going to be riled in the same way, unless you've had a few jars or whatever, but unlikely. Sorry, carry on. So you had a little spat.
Clearly there was a number of different narratives doing the rounds. I think it's, given the fact that there was no crime scene investigation set up, the autopsy was questionable, the video footage of his widow, it's just weird.
Yeah. She's an ex-beauty queen from wherever, and she's like, you know what I mean?
From the Trump organization as well.
And that's what they're like. If anyone's met beauty queens, they are.
But obviously, we aren't insiders, so we will never know the truth.
We'll never know exactly
if it was a faked assassination, whether it was a real assassination, whether it was a lone gunman. Yes, we can conjecture, but to say definitively that that he was not assassinated is clearly impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
I think therefore you can retain a degree of cynicism. But
exactly.
Retain a degree of one particular lie.
Yes, definitely retain a degree of cynicism, but also maybe, and this interests me a lot because we both write about America, and I think we love America. Am I right in saying, Jeff, that you've got? I've
spent an awful lot of time.
Me too.
I feel almost a sense of grief as to what has happened.
Yes, exactly, and that is why the Charlie Kirk thing, I think, hit me really hard because I thought, oh God. This is America's in serious trouble, and with the Trump stuff, with the it's all going to be fine. The 5D chess bullshit. I'm not going to go to war, but I'm going to bomb Iran. I'm definitely not going to war. I'm going to now go for Venezuela. It's like so it can be his Vietnam. It's like that concerns me, and I know it sounds like but this is talking about politics, like it's back in the old days. Well, yeah, because this is what this guy's doing. It's like this isn't a movie. This isn't a movie. When people say to me, it's like it's all a film. It's a movie. Well, the people that died from the vaccines that were fucking shoved in their arms are real people. These people died. So I haven't been to any movie, Jeff. I don't know about you, where people you're looking at the screen and then you go, hang on a minute, no, that person's actually dead. Yeah. So that's always been my thing, which is that there's a narrative that is obviously set up in certain ways, like the Bitcoin stuff, like the even the stuff with Vance, the Palantir, all that sort of stuff, vested interest. And you're right in so much when Southern Market, it all follow the money, because that's where you get to the crux of it, I think.
Yeah, and it, really concerning that people like Bev Turner, routinely atting JD Vance.
Oh, lovely Bev Turner.
Come JD Vance and save us in the United. Look at the terrible things the Labour government's doing to us in the United Kingdom.
It's really weird, Jeff.
Are we going to be? And again, there is a hint in South of Market that perhaps the agenda is that the United Kingdom is going to become like the 51st state. Perhaps we lose our currency. Perhaps the pound will go to be replaced by the dollar. But you almost get the feeling that the JD Vance and Peter Thiel version of technocracy is what's coming next, and we're being set up for it. Yes. And that they are going to be presented as the salvation. Trump or JD Vance or whoever are going to be presented as the salvation, and we are as willing, obedient subjects.
the Bev,
I have to accept it.
the Bev Turner thing is interesting to me because without singling, going hard on her, because there are others as well, I didn't realize, because I hadn't been involved in the media in mainstream. I hadn't been on any of the This Mornings or the Good Morning Britain until 2021, when I was opposite Edwina Currie, who was for vaccine passports and I was against. And obviously I was a lone voice in that, Jesus Christ. But Bev Turner, I didn't realize a lot of these people had been in the mainstream media properly, been on TV shows, and you know what I mean, as kind of whatever figures in the media, or they'd been married to famous people or whatever. I just thought, oh, there are these people just springing up out of nowhere. So Bev, when she was on This Morning talking about vaccines, I was like, oh, okay. But now she's in America sitting opposite President Trump, who said, I'm the father of the vaccine and I'm still proud of it. He's still proud of it to this day. I'm inviting Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer, to sit down with me and Bill Gates, at a dinner with the Saudi fucking prince who would have had Khashoggi executed and then dismembered in the White House. It's like, what? If I'm sitting, even if I'd be like, I don't want to be around that shit. And then it makes me think to myself that, okay, so everyone has their price, essentially, is the lesson.
Yeah.
But what a price to pay, Jeff. I mean, whatever. I can't speak for, I can only speak for myself, is that to be a journalist, because my mum was one, and she always said, always ask yourself, what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this picture? And if you're sitting opposite President Trump and you're saying, oh, President Trump, so do you think being president is like being it must be like being a father or a grandfather, isn't it, of the children? What? You're sitting opposite a man who's funding Gaza, the bombing of Gaza.
And of course, what? They've got forward. You and I fell out with the Together movement largely because
we did.
Do you remember the interview that James Melville and Isabel Oakeshott did with Matt Hancock? The first.
Oh my God!
And they chatted about Bitcoin.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you think to yourself, so your point's even more. You start to go, hang on a minute, that's interesting. So Hancock was also pushing the coin. You know what I mean? So you just think to yourself, hang on a second, if he was up to it, Melville, and it's just bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. I just do not understand. And the jabs, I mean, people, I think, say, God, Abs, you're obsessed with these bloody vaccines. Yes, because people were told it's safe, don't worry about it, there's nothing to worry about. And then to me, it's the state invaded people's bodies. It's like, that's the injectables is haven't you got wearables, portables, wearables, injectables. Mm-hmm. So hang on a second, that means that they're getting closer and closer with their, the needle. That's why I that's my focus is the state is it has literally invaded us. So I just don't know why, Jeff, why people don't, why the vaccines are still being given in America. They're still, and they've still been given here. And it's like, why is that happening? We even the most normie, even though I'm not sure I like that word anymore, but even the people that were kind of fast asleep now go, oh my God, why did I have these things? So why are they still being, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I don't get why there's not more anger.
And of course, now they're just peddling every other,
Ozempic, all that shit.
Agenda. You've got net zero. You've got the whole debt thing. This the token. I interviewed recently Miles Harris about the creation of this sort of tokenized grid system where everything, mortgages, any money you hold in deposit accounts, assets everything's going to be tokenized and put onto some digital grid, which of course can be monitored and controlled. But obviously one of the themes of my book is the fact that the tech bros are essentially taking over the world, and we are moving towards a very authoritarian, controlling, coercing system, which may indeed be a one world government.
Yes.
But is that overstating it too much, do you think, for, if we can call them that, use James's word, the normies, in that is it saying that the dystopia is going to be so all-encompassing, so extreme, that they kind of can't believe it? That this is like an in absurdia argument? In other words, part of the reason that we continue to be ostracized, that people just simply can't comprehend the extent of the control?
That's a good question. I would say, you know what's interesting? I've been thinking, well, as we both have, I'm sure, long and hard, and every day I formulate thoughts, and I've written a lot about, as you have, of stuff over the years, and again, and in my book, there's quite a lot about dystopia, relation to the stakeholder capitalist, WEF, China, all that sort of stuff, and Mao's influence coming back into the rear, well, not the rear view mirror. Yeah, he's right up here. His and the Fabians as well. There, the whole, you can trace it all back, all this stuff. I would say, do you know what? I think I tweeted a couple of weeks ago. The biggest mistake I think we made, not we, I say the royal we, is we believed it could never happen to us. That's the mistake the West made.
Yeah. I
say the West because we were all kind of like, oh, it's all fine. Oh, government, we've got votes. We can vote for different two parties and or etc. We've got Big Pharma. Yeah, it keeps us alive and all that shit. And we read with horror Solzhenitsyn, the Gulag Archipelago, and One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, and we read Zamyatin, and we go, oh my goodness, and we read dissident Chinese, the people that were living under Mao culture, and we go, oh my God, that's horrific. Stalin's purges being taken out, people being just basically unpersoned, sort of like, where's he gone? Oh, well, he was here a minute ago.
And Solzhenitsyn's cancer ward.
Cancer ward, exactly.
Cancer ward. He was essentially telling us that they're going to use, doctrinal medical control and nonsense to essentially
Solzhenitsyn, these people, that's why I always... so in answer to your question, I think it's because, and I've said this on the pod, and I've said this to people, and I know it's sometimes difficult to people to get their heads round. If you disregard history and you say it's all fake, then you're doing yourself a terrible disservice, because actually all the answers lie in the past as to what's happening now. And obviously remain skeptical, especially if it's about World War II or, it was just happened to Churchill just did what he did and whatever. And, there was no nefarious transfer of wealth going on or etc. So obviously remain skeptical, but we should thank these people for, and that's what I say to people is it's all there. The breadcrumbs that lead to the house, the witch's house, are all there if you follow them. So read these people and understand that that's what the world government, that's what they want. They want a kind of top-down Stalinist. I sometimes almost like think to myself, what would I call it? But I suppose, what would you call it? I suppose communitarian, collectivist, all rooted back to the Fabians, wanting kind of everyone to be be serfs, essentially. Yeah. No one to have freedom and be individual. So we need to thank Ayn Rand too, as well, for her great, for ideas. I think ideas, Jeff, are just great. Get ideas out, and if they're terrible ideas, then hopefully they'll be shunned by people.
Absolutely. Abi, it's always a bloody pleasure to have a chat with
you. And you, Jeff, it has been.
I'm coming up to an hour, so yes. Like James Delingpole, I think if we run it much over an hour, nobody will listen to the end. So
exactly, they'll be like, oh, there's those two wittering on.
But obviously, give me again a recap of how people get your book, and a shout out to Abi Daly and
so you can get Hot Banana, which, by the way, is the title is from my father was a session musician, and me and my sister used to sing when we were really little, baby, let me be your loving teddy bear. So the backing was, baby, let me be hot banana, your loving teddy bear, hot banana. So yeah, you can get this hot banana on Lulu, as in you make me want to shout, lulu.com. And you can also get We the People on there as well. And you can also get it in Kindle version on Amazon and Apple Books. If you want to order it, by the way, I'd order it now because you know what Christmas is. People at Christmas is like. They'll be, yeah. So, and how about yours? And tell me where people.
Oh yes, so you can get South of Market. It's in most of the online booksellers, Waterstones, and so on. But probably the most obvious way to get it is on Amazon.com.
Yes.
It's doing well. I've got some brilliant reviews. So
excellent.
Far. I'm delighted. But it's my first attempt, so I'd really genuinely like people to read it and tell me what they think.
It's a proper novel, Jeff.